Today we're going to be talking about the discourse surrounding Bible Sumett and why there is so much anger about the position he is playing in 4 Minute. And no, that is not a play on, because we're talking about, top and bottom. Is it BL coded? Are you BL coded? Truly, why is there so much anger around what position he's playing? If you aren't clued up on what's been happening in the Be on Cloud house, recently meaning 2 weeks ago, they released their 4 minutes official teaser with Bible Sumett and Just Papat as the main two characters. Now, this series used to be Bible and Build, but of course, there were some things that happened with Build and he is no longer on the project, or with Beyond Cloud. But with this new pairing, some discourse has arisen about why and how Bible is now playing the part that Build was originally supposed to play. If you didn't know, obviously this is pointing towards the fact that Bible is playing what is deemed as a bottom and Just Papat is playing what is deemed as a top. Now, when we have this conversation, especially being someone of the LGBTQIA community, specifically being gay, there is kind of some rudeness and invasiveness when this question comes up, especially when people talk about BL. I think that a lot of the time we get upset about the hyperfixation of these roles because they have nothing to do with the actual story. And most times people really just want to know and to kind of be invasive. It has nothing to do with the story. There's nothing that you could say, unless you are making a porn, that those roles have something to do with the plot of a story. If you can convince me in the comments, I will gladly listen, but I doubt you can. Before we get into why these comments and these questions are a little bit invasive, scratch that, a lot of bit invasive, we have to understand where BL comes from, where yaoi comes from, and where certain terms for these positions come from. We can trace yaoi back to the 1970s in Japan. Shoujo was created through the eyes of the woman, and it was a way to escape the hypermasculinity of regular heterosexual comics. You have the hyper masculine guy. They could do anything they wanted to, and for some reason, the woman or the female lead would always fall in love no matter what crap they did to them. With the genre came two terms, which is SEME and uke. If we go off of the original meaning for them, they are there to signify whether someone is more of the aggressor or the chaser in a BL or a shoujo or a yaoi, whatever you want to call it. The SEME is going to be someone who is more aggressive, who is the chaser. The uke is going to be the person who is more submissive in the relationship. Originally, these terms did not mean whether or not someone was the top or the bottom. But of course, over time and with society progressing, these terms were associated with those two things. And a lot of this you have to blame on the Western view of what that means, of what someone who is aggressive and someone who is submissive is, because it does come from a very heteronormative point of view. Obviously, with a man and a woman, you can pretty much guess who's going to be doing what, right? As time went by and other countries started to adopt these terms when it comes to BL, especially now in the era of BL being visual, and we see it on movie screens, we see it in series. There are whole series centered around this genre. Those two terms have taken on a new meaning while still remaining the original meaning in Japan and in other countries. When it comes to the West, a lot of this is looked at as top and bottom. With this, they contribute to a very harmful stereotype that because someone is receiving, they are the submissive one, or they are a person who is docile, can't take care of themselves. Whereas with the giver, the top, the Sumett, the man of the house. And with these stereotypes, they tend to make the UK more feminine in nature, which contributes to a stereotype in people's minds. And we all know just because someone is of the female gender, they aren't necessarily this and they aren't necessarily that. And with Sumett, they make them more masculine, which again, just because you are a top or an aggressor or a pursuer, chaser, you aren't necessarily aggressive. You aren't necessarily a manly man or a man's man. In this day and age, those two terms and the things that are associated with them are very, very outdated. And as someone in the queer community, I see it all the time. I see people who consider themselves tops as more feminine and more in touch with their feminine side or their feminine energy. And I see people who are considered bottoms as more masculine. That's why we can't take these terms and use them so concretely in stories, because the reality is that they are not a projection of what that person is. Now you're probably asking, okay, Jordie, how does this relate to the discourse around Bible? Well, because Bible is playing the role that Build was supposed to play, he is considered in the story to be the bottom, quote unquote. And there's a lot of discourse on Twitter, on Instagram, in Reddit threads about him having this personality and having this persona, but being a bottom. And a lot of fans are like, okay, like he's not girly, he's not feminine, so why is he in this position? And that's what contributes to the harmful stereotype. Just because he has these personality traits, that is no reflection of what he likes to do in the bedroom. These things do not matter when it comes to the plot of the story. It does not matter. There is a good section of the BL community that does think this matters and will come up with any excuse in the book to why they need to know what the position of a character is. Now let's take a look at why these questions or these assumptions are harmful and invasive. If we look at it in relation to heterosexual couples, yes, we can pretty much guess what a heterosexual couple does in the bedroom or what positions they play. But even now, in this day and age, sometimes you can't, because guess what? Heterosexual men like certain things too. Heterosexual women like certain things too. And that does not dictate their personalities or their roles in the relationship, because a woman can be the breadwinner, a man could be a stay-at-home husband. It does not dictate what their personality or what their role in the relationship is. What purpose does it have to the story? Again, I consider this open dialogue. So if you have a reason why these positions need to be known for the plot line of a story, I'm open, I'm all ears to listen and to have a conversation about it. And just to reiterate the harmful stereotypes that this has, a lot of times people feel that if someone is a top, they are aggressive, they are the man, they are the breadwinner, they have these certain personality traits. People think that if they're a bottom, same thing, they have these personality traits, they're very submissive, they are docile, they are weak. But let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about why these terms came to be, where they came from. Let's go a little bit more in depth in it. Let's look at the harmful stereotypes attached to these because of the westernization of the genre in general. Let's talk about Bible and how this affects his role and the roles that will come to him after this series. Let's talk about why it is invasive and it is rude to the queer community to ask these type of questions. And let's see where it goes. But this to me is very BL coded. The only question I have is, are you BL coded? And if you are and you're not subscribed, why? Let's talk about it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you comment down below and contribute to the conversation. And that's gonna be it. Make sure you check out my other video about Cherry Magic and whether or not it was the catalyst to GMMTV specifically starting to move a lot of their content over to paid platforms. If you like conversations like that, definitely check that out. But I will see you guys in the next video. This is BL Coded. See you. Peace.